Okay, so last week we talked about the different pencils that you have in your drawing kits, your 4B pencils, your 2H pencils, and everything in between. What we're going to do now is we're going to practice using all of those different pencils to create value. And value is the relative lightness or darkness in an area of art. And being able to manipulate that value and really highlighting and creating shadow is going to turn good drawings into great drawings. And having a control of a full range of values and a bunch of different styles is going to help you become a better artist. So first we'll start by setting this up. And I could tell you that it has to be like precisely exactly 2 centimeters and 1.5. Nobody has time for that. So what you're going to do in your sketchbook is you are going to set up 6 long skinny rectangles. I know that I don't have straight edges for you guys in your drawing kits. It's a little bit too expensive, but you should have straight edges with your planners, and you can really just use anything that has a straight edge onto it. I'm gonna be honest. You don't have to be super precise with this one. You just have to turn it into 6 long skinny rectangles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're gonna be doing 6 different types of marks for this. On one side, I'm going to give myself a teeny tiny little rectangle, because this is where I'm going to label what the different types of marks I'm going to be using are. And then from here, you need to divide it up into 9 sections. So I've got this teeny tiny one. I'm gonna label those in just a second, but then it's gonna be 9 different sections across. They do not have to be precise, they do not have to be exact, but you do need 9 boxes. What I find helpful is I find where the middle is, and then I kind of fill it in from there. So you will notice that mine are not going to be precise and exact. I'm just guesstimating. And you can guesstimate too, because nobody is going to use a ruler to double check your work on this. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So my darker values are going to be on this side, and my lighter values are going to be on this side. Your requirements for your value scales are you need to include hatching marks, cross hatching marks, smudge, scribbles, circles, and your choice. You can make value however you want to in that last one. And again, I'm gonna work darker to lighter. That's my preference for using my pencils, just because I feel like I have more control when I work darker and then adding value. It's a little bit harder for me to work lighter to darker. So whatever your preference is, it doesn't really matter. But based on what you learned last week about our different pencils and the different types of marks that they make, the darker values, you're probably going to want to be using B pencils to make those darker values. So your hatching lines are going to be, let me find my 4B pencil. Your hatching lines are parallel, they are overlapping, and the more layers of these hatching lines you have on top of each other, and the higher B pencil you use, the darker your value is going to be. So this is going to be my darkest value, as close to black as I can manage, just by doing overlapping lines. And then my next box is going to be taken back just a little bit. And then I'm going to switch up in this next one. You can organize this however you want to. You can use whatever pencils you want to. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to switch up to my 2B pencil because I know that these are going to make slightly lighter marks. I'm not going to be pressing down quite so hard. And one thing you can do is you can kind of like squint your eyes and make them maybe just a little bit blurry. And if you can see 3 distinctly different values or like layers of gray, then you're spot on. I'll do one more with my 2B pencil before I switch it up. I'm not pressing down quite as hard on this one. And if you need to go just a little bit darker, I'm looking at this one compared to this one, it's not quite dark enough. There's extra white paper showing through, but your hatching marks are going to be all going the same direction. Now you will continue to switch up your pencils. Where's my HB pencil? I got these teeny tiny little boxes that I made. So this value is just a little bit lighter than that one. I'll switch up to my 2H pencil. I'm gonna have more space in between these hatching lines that I'm making. I won't put as many layers of them. There'll be more space in between them. And these hatching marks, are one way that you can create both value, so that relative darkness and lightness, and texture. So some of the examples from this week's slides are going to have pictures of different artists and how they've used hatching lines in their work. And you can create different textures with this, whether it's a wood grain texture or a hair texture, a fur texture, but hatching lines are one of the tools that you can use for that. Cross-hatching lines, I'm going to switch back to my 4B pencil. Cross-hatching lines are lines that are layered up on top of each other in a bunch of different directions. And the more layers of lines that you have, the closer together those lines are, the darker your value is going to be. And remember, on one side of your paper, you want to go as dark as you can manage. Of course, if you go too dark too fast, you can always grab your eraser from your drawing kit and you can always erase stuff back. That works too. So for my next lighter value, I'm sticking with my 4B pencil on this one, but I have some more space in between my marks. So you can see just a little bit more white paper between them. And maybe I'm not pressing down quite so hard as I was on the last one. Now, I'm gonna fast forward just a little bit. Okay, so I finished up with the cross-hatching marks and now I'm gonna move on to smudging. So, smudging, I'm gonna use my 4B pencil kind of at its side, and smudging is, you're trying to make a really smooth, consistent value in your box. And I recommend stopping, even though we're gonna go all the way to our lightest values over here, I recommend stopping just because it's so hard to smudge with your H pencils. I would use the 4B, the 2B, and the HB, and then stop. So just play with those ones for the smudging one. And like we practiced last week, you can change up how you're holding onto your pencil. So you'll notice I'm still using the 4B pencil, but I have changed how I'm holding it. I'm holding it back just a little bit further, and I'm not pressing down quite so hard, so I have a little bit more control. And then I'll do one more with the 4B right here. And then of course you would work your way all the way across all 9 values. For scribbles, you are going to play around with creating a different type of texture with some scribbles. So whatever type of scribbly bibbly marks you would like to make, same thing as before with our other ones. The more layers of lines you have, the darker or the higher your B pencil, the darker your values are going to be. So just leaving a little bit of extra white paper, switching up your different pencils. And this is another way to create texture. You can imagine this maybe as a hair texture on a person or on an animal or something like that. Maybe it's a rug texture. Maybe you are drawing for observational and still life drawings that are coming down. Maybe you have a stuffed animal or something that you're drawing. So things to think about there. Of course, you will continue all the way across, switching up your different pencils as you need to. Circles. I'm gonna do this one. I'm gonna challenge myself a little bit with this one. And I'm going to do with my HB pencil, and I'm gonna try and make the darkest value possible. Instead of using my B pencil, and you can use whatever pencils you want, I'm just challenging myself on this one. I'm doing little teeny tiny little circles, and the closer together those circles are, the smaller those circles are, the harder I'm pressing down with my pencil, the darker my value is gonna be. And so I will go and I will fill in this whole box full of little circles. They're small and they're overlapping. And then for my next value, of course, you would fill up the whole box. For my next value, maybe just a little bit bigger on those circles, maybe just a little bit more white paper peeking through. So it's a darker value than this one, but it's gonna be lighter than that one because we're gonna be able to see a little bit more of our sketchbook paper poking through. And I'll keep going from there. I won't bore you guys with it and have like the whole video. But your finished project will look something like this. And this is what you're gonna be submitting. So you've got your hatching, cross-hatching, smudge, scribbles, circles, and your choice. For the choice, I did little overlapping hearts on this one. Again, I'm playing around with the different pencils that I have. These are some of the B pencils. I have softer marks, larger hearts, not pressing down quite so hard as I work my way across. But you will submit a photograph of your finished value scale for this week's project.